My name is Diane Peterson, and I'm 33 years old. If you asked most people who know me, they'd probably say I'm responsible, put it together, the stable one. What they don't know is that for the last 3 years, I've also been something else. My mother's personal ATM. My mom, Diana, 56, has always lived in her own little universe. In that world, she is the long-suffering heroine, everyone else is ungrateful, and any problem she has is somehow someone else's fault, usually mine. I spent years trying to be a good daughter. I paid her rent. I covered her groceries. I refilled her gas card when she forgot payday was coming. I stayed quiet while she treated my younger sister, Melissa, like she was the second coming of royalty and acted like I was just there. The favoritism wasn't subtle. Melissa, 31, could show up late, forget birthdays, lose jobs, and somehow she was still trying her best. I could pay 3 of Mom's bills in 1 week and get, at most, a thumbs up emoji. If Melissa's son Max sneezed, it was a family emergency group chat situation. My son Eli, 5 years old, could win an award at daycare and Mom wouldn't even ask to see the certificate. But I kept paying. I told myself it was just what good daughters did. I had a steady job, I had a small apartment, an old but functional car, and a boyfriend, Ryan, who worked his own 9 to 5 and actually pulled his weight. We weren't rich, but we were okay. And since we were okay, my mother treated us like an endless resource. The day everything shifted, it didn't look dramatic at first. It started with a fever. Ryan's fever, to be specific. He'd been feeling off for a couple of days, but he's one of those people who think sleep and water can fix anything. That night, though, his temperature shot up so fast it scared me. His skin was burning under my hand, his eyes glassy. I took him to the ER, telling myself I was overreacting, that they'd give him fluids and send us home. They didn't send us home. They admitted him for observation, hooked him up, drew blood, and used phrases like, "just to be safe," in that careful, professional tone that makes your stomach clench. Suddenly, it was just me and Eli in the waiting room, my phone buzzing with updates, my brain racing through logistics. Okay, one thing at a time. Our babysitter was out of town. Ryan's family lives in another state. My closest friends have kids of their own and work shifts that don't line up with emergency room time. Every option I mentally reached for just crumbled, which left one person I absolutely did not want to call. My mom. I stared at her contact for a full minute. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd been paying her bills like a silent subscription service, but asking her for an actual favor? That felt more terrifying than the hospital. Still, I didn't have a choice. I hit call. "Hello." Her voice had that put-upon edge already, like picking up was a sacrifice. "Hey, Mom." I swallowed. "Ryan's in the hospital. High fever. They admitted him. I've got Eli here with me, and I need to run a few things, talk to the doctors. Could you watch him for a few hours? Just today. It's kind of an emergency." Silence. Then a long theatrical sigh. "I'm not your babysitter, Diane," she said, cold enough to frost the phone. "I didn't sign up to raise your child." I blinked, staring at the white hospital walls. "No one's asking you to raise him. Just sit with him. For a little while. He's your grandson." "You always act like I have nothing better to do," she snapped. "I'm tired of being treated like a servant." The word servant hit me wrong. I almost laughed. A servant gets paid. Before I could respond, I heard giggling in the background. A child's laugh. Familiar. "Is that Max?" I asked. Silence. Then, casually, "Melissa needed me to take him today. She and Todd had plans." I swear I felt my jaw clench so tight it hurt. "Let me get this straight," I said slowly. "You're watching Max right now, but you can't watch Eli while my boyfriend is in the hospital?" "Melissa's situation is different," she said, like that explained anything. "She has responsibilities." "And I don't?" My voice dropped. "You do realize I've been paying your rent for 3 years, right? Your bills, groceries, phone, that ridiculous digital photo frame subscription." "Don't throw that in my face," she snapped. "That's what children do. They take care of their mothers." "And what do mothers do?" I shot back, because I thought family went both ways. "I'm not your servant," she repeated, voice rising. "You always act like I owe you something." I looked down at Eli, who was tugging at my sleeve, confused. His big brown eyes flicked between my phone and my face. That's when it hit me. I was begging someone who didn't see me or my family as a priority. I was begging while she literally held my sister's child in her arms. Something in me just snapped off. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet click. Okay, I said, suddenly calm. Got it. I won't bother you again. And I hung up. I handled it myself. I bought Eli snacks from the vending machine, set him up in a corner of the lobby with my phone and some cartoons, and kept bouncing between him and Ryan's room. It was chaotic and exhausting and messy, but we got through the night. Honestly, it felt better than twisting myself into knots for someone who couldn't be bothered. It wasn't just about that night. It was about years of tiny cuts. Birthdays she skipped with flimsy excuses, posts where she bragged about Max's macaroni art while never asking for a picture of Eli, calls that only came at the end of the month when the rent was due. That night in the hospital, something in my chest went quiet. Not sad, not furious, just done. I didn't tell Ryan the full story right away. He had enough going on with his fever and the tests. I just told him Mom was busy, and we managed. He came home a couple of days later, pale but stable, moving slow around the apartment. Life started to settle again. Eli went back to asking nonstop questions about dinosaurs and space sharks. Then Sunday morning came. I was halfway through my first sip of coffee when my phone lit up. Mom, the screen said. Of course, I answered, more out of curiosity than anything else. You know it's almost the end of the month, she said, skipping any greeting. I need you to send the usual. Rent's due Wednesday. I'm low on groceries and the gas card needs topping up. I took another sip of coffee. It tasted better than it had in weeks. Yeah, I said softly. That's not happening anymore. Silence. Then that fake, sweet voice, like she was talking to a child. What do you mean, sweetheart? You're just stressed. I understand. It's been a tough week. No, I cut in. I'm serious. I'm not sending you another dime. Not this month, not next month, not ever again. There was a pause, then a disbelieving laugh. Don't be ridiculous, Diane. I'm your mother. And I'm a mom, I answered, and a partner, and the person who has been bankrolling your life for 3 years while you treat me like a walking debit card. She gasped like I'd slapped her. You think raising you was free? She demanded. Do you know what I sacrificed? You were a sick baby. I stayed up all night. I gave up everything. And now you want to abandon me? You mean the way you bailed on Eli when Ryan was in the hospital? I asked quietly. While you were babysitting Max? Melissa's situation is different, she snapped. You have a family, income. She needs me. Cool, I said. Then she can pay your rent. That's when the yelling really started. Ungrateful, heartless, brainwashed by that boyfriend. I just held the phone away and let her perform. It was the same script I'd heard my whole life, only louder. When she ran out of breath, I brought the phone back to my ear. The Bank of Diane is closed, I said. You'll need to figure things out without me. And then I hung up. No speech, no long explanation, just click. I sat there in the quiet kitchen, the sunlight hitting the table, my coffee cooling slowly. For the first time in years, I felt something I didn't expect. Relief. Ryan shuffled in a few minutes later in his robe, still moving carefully. He took one look at my face. She called? He asked. Yeah, I said. Wanted her monthly stipend. What did you tell her? That the Bank of Diane is closed. He didn't say anything at first. Then he gave me this small, tired smile and kissed my forehead. Good, he murmured. That should have been the end of it. A clean cut, a quiet boundary. But my mother doesn't do clean or quiet. She does drama. Within days, my sister Melissa was texting me. Mom is devastated. She hasn't eaten. She says you abandoned her. You know she collapsed, right? She went to the ER. Collapsed. The word sat wrong in my gut. The old guilt tried to claw its way back in, but this time I didn't just accept the story. I called the hospital myself, gave her name, and asked. Mild dehydration. Released the same morning. No overnight stay. No crisis. Just a vending machine, some saline, and a dramatic retelling. I hung up slowly, staring at the wall. The little switch in my chest turned again. Not a snap this time, but a lock. She wasn't just selfish. She was rewriting reality so I could be the villain in her tragic little play. And somewhere deep down, I knew. This was only the opening scene. The real drama hadn't even started yet. Silence. Real silence. Terrifies my mother more than any argument ever could. After I cut her off financially, Diana expected rage, guilt, maybe even begging. Instead, she got nothing. No replies, no calls, no explanations. I think that rattled her more than losing the money itself. But my mother never stays quiet for long. When she couldn't get to me directly, she switched targets. Melissa. My sister's texts started coming like automated notifications. Mom is barely eating. She hasn't slept since you abandoned her. She was crying all night. Then, the dramatic climax. She collapsed. Diane, she had to go to the ER. I stared at the message. Melissa loved exaggeration, but this felt like something straight from one of Mom's soap opera fantasies. Ryan looked at my screen and shook his head. She's rewriting the story already. He was right, but I did something my mother didn't expect. I called the hospital. The nurse sounded exhausted, like she'd explained the same thing too many times today. Mild dehydration, walked in by herself, bought snacks from the vending machine, released the same morning, no collapse. I hung up and let out a breath that was half laugh, half disbelief. She really expected me to come crawling back after a staged ER cameo. And when I didn't, she escalated. The unannounced visit. It happened 3 days later. Ryan had finally returned to work at the clinic after recovering from the fever. His job was calm, structured, predictable. My mother thrives on the opposite. I was in the kitchen when my phone buzzed. Ryan, she's here. 2 words, enough to make my stomach drop. Then, don't come yet. I grabbed my keys anyway. When I arrived, Ryan was outside, arms folded, shoulders tense. A security guard stood a few steps away. And there, storming out the clinic doors like she owned the building, was Diana. Her face twisted when she saw me. You, she spat, jabbing a finger at Ryan. You poisoned her mind. She was a good girl before you turned her against her own family. Mom, stop, I snapped. She puffed up, dramatic as ever. I came to make peace, and he treats me like some criminal. He threatened me with security. Ryan rubbed his forehead. She marched in here demanding to see me, told the receptionist she had urgent family business, and then accused me of brainwashing you. She did brainwash you, my mother shouted. You were always a good daughter until he came along. There it was again. Good daughter. The version of me she could control, guilt trip, or drain financially. A nurse appeared at the doorway. Ma'am, you're not allowed back inside. The incident has been documented. Documented? Mom shrieked. I didn't do anything wrong. You harassed staff, Ryan said quietly. And me. She whirled on me. Fix this, Diane. You're my daughter. You owe me. No, I said, I don't. I turned away, took Ryan's hand. For the first time in my life, I walked away from my mother while she was screaming. And she couldn't handle it. Behind us, her voice cracked with fury. You'll regret this. You hear me? Both of you will regret this. The envelope. I blocked her number the next morning. Not out of spite, out of necessity. For Ryan's safety, for Eli's stability, for my peace. Melissa kept texting, lecturing me about embarrassment, loyalty, respect. I ignored her. Then, 2 days later, I opened the mailbox and found it. A plain white envelope, no name, just my address. Inside, a court summons. My mother was suing me for breach of verbal contract and emotional distress. I read the document 3 times because I honestly thought it had to be a joke. She claimed I had promised lifelong financial support, a binding agreement, and that cutting her off caused significant psychological harm. Ryan walked in as I dropped into a chair, the paper shaking in my hands. Oh, hell, he muttered. She really did it. I need a folder, I whispered. A big one. For the next hour, we assembled the greatest evidence file I've ever made. Every bank transfer, every grocery receipt, every urgent text, screenshots of her bragging online about buying treats for herself, the call log showing she refused to watch Eli while babysitting Max, and the hospital's confirmation that her collapse was a dramatic lie. By the time we finished, the folder was thick enough to have its own zip code. Court day. Small claims court is nothing like TV drama. It's fluorescent lights, cheap chairs, and a judge who looks like he's seen every bizarre case under the sun. Diana arrived dressed in full mourning black, as if preparing for an Oscar monologue. She didn't look at me. Fine by me. The judge called our names. She launched straight into her performance. Your Honor, I am an abandoned mother. My daughter promised to support me for life. I have been devastated emotionally, financially, spiritually. She spread highlighted bank statements across the table like evidence of a murder. The judge nodded politely. Then it was my turn. I handed him my folder. Your Honor, these payments were voluntary. I stopped only after she refused to help during a medical emergency. She has since harassed me, shown up at my partner's workplace, and fabricated medical issues to manipulate me. The judge skimmed through my documents, paused, took a longer look at a screenshot of her bragging about a new phone case she bought while claiming she couldn't afford bread. Finally, he said, Ms. Peterson, there is no evidence of a contract. These were gifts. This case is dismissed. Just like that. No delay, no negotiation, no sympathy for her theatrics. Dismissed. Mom went rigid, gathered her papers like shards of pride, and walked out without a word. I didn't follow. I walked out of a different door and went home to Ryan and Eli. The calm before the worst storm. For 2 whole weeks afterward, silence. No texts, no calls, no dramatic Facebook quotes, nothing. It was the longest peaceful stretch I'd had in years. Then Ryan got a text from his friend. Pretty sure your mother-in-law just moved in with Melissa. Saw her unloading bags. Of course, running to the golden child was predictable. But none of us, not even me, expected how fast that arrangement would explode. Because if my mother thought Melissa would tolerate her forever, she was about to learn a brutal truth. Even golden children have limits. Mom moving in with Melissa didn't surprise me. What surprised me was how fast everything fell apart. For the first couple of days, Melissa played the role she'd always been cast in, the good daughter. She posted on Instagram, "Family first." Of course she did. The truth, though? Within 48 hours, Diana had already started her routine. Day 2. Todd doesn't help enough. Melissa sent Ryan a text. Mom says Todd isn't pulling his weight. She's concerned. Concerned. That was code for criticism wrapped in fake sympathy. It didn't stop there. Mom had opinions about how Max should be eating less processed food, how Melissa's laundry detergent smelled cheap, how the way Todd folded blankets was sloppy and disrespectful. She was rearranging cabinets like she owned the place, commenting on every decision Melissa made, and acting like her mere presence was a blessing. Classic Diana. Day 4, the build-up. Every day, Melissa sent a message with a slightly different tone. Mom's trying her best. Mom is having trouble adjusting. Mom thinks we need more structure in the house. Translation. Mom turned into a full-time live-in manager nobody hired. Meanwhile, Todd was losing his mind. Ryan and I were eating dinner when another message came through. Ryan read it, choked on his water, and handed me the phone. Todd says your mom told him real men don't need naps. I almost spit out my food. It wasn't funny for Melissa, but it was hilarious for me. Day 5, the ultimatum. The blow-up happened the next morning. Melissa texted. Todd said either mom goes or he does. I stared at the screen. Ryan blinked twice. Eli, from the living room, yelled, "Who has to go, Grandma?" We pretended we didn't hear him. Then another text buzzed in. I can't risk my marriage. No apology, no explanation, just the reality of Melissa's priorities hitting her like a brick. Because the truth was simple. Melissa had always wanted the appearance of being the perfect daughter, as long as it didn't cost her peace, marriage, or comfort. When things got hard, she folded like paper. Day 6, the eviction. Ryan sat beside me while I opened the next message. I told Mom she has to leave. She got mad. I packed her bags while she was napping. I covered my mouth to hide the laugh that escaped. Mom didn't even get to finish her coffee. The scene played out exactly how I imagined. Diana waking up to her suitcases by the front door. Melissa doing nervous lip biting. Todd pretending to fix something outside. Max holding a dinosaur toy, confused. And Diana, furious, humiliated, betrayed. Just not by the daughter she expected. The aftermath. Mom didn't call me, didn't text me, didn't try to plead. Instead, she tried calling every cousin from our dad's side. And after her courtroom theatrics and social media drama, nobody bit. Word travels fast in families, especially about the relative who sues her own children. One of Melissa's neighbors even posted a vague Facebook status. Imagine kicking out your own mother. Couldn't be me. People were already whispering. Diana had become someone else's cautionary tale, and she hated that. The encounter at the gas station. A few days later, Ryan and I stopped for gas. As I stepped out, someone called my name. It was Todd. He looked free, like a man who'd just vacuumed his house without being scolded for doing it wrong. Melissa filled me in, he said. Your mom's intense. Intense is one word, I replied. He leaned against his car. You know what she said to me before she left? She told me I was acting just like her son. She meant it as an insult. I burst out laughing. She really thinks my name is a curse word now, I said. Todd just shook his head, climbed into his car, and drove off like a liberated man. The porch scene. Later that week, Ryan looked out the front window and stiffened. She's here, he whispered. I stepped outside. And there she was, sitting on my porch, arms crossed, that leopard print purse beside her like a battle-worn companion. She looked smaller than I remembered, older, tired. Diane, she said in a hoarse voice, I have nowhere to go. I didn't speak. I've called everyone. Melissa blocked my number. Todd won't answer. Your cousins pretend they don't see my calls. She stood up slowly, eyes scanning my house like she was imagining where her decorations would go. I know I made mistakes, she said, but I'm still your mother. Tears didn't fall. Her voice didn't crack. It wasn't remorse. It was desperation. You're not here for an apology, I finally said. You're here because you ran out of options. Her silence confirmed it. I don't need much, she said. Just until I figure something out. And how long will that take? A week? A year? 5? It won't be long, she said quickly. I promise. Promises, her favorite currency. Always worthless. I looked back at the door. Ryan was watching from inside. Eli was on the couch, humming to himself. My life was peaceful, stable, safe. Letting her back in felt like lighting a match inside my own living room. But I didn't slam the door in her face. I stepped aside. 1 week, I said, no longer. She blinked, shocked I didn't cave completely. Then she picked up her bag and walked inside as though she'd never been kicked out of 3 homes and a courtroom in 1 month. The final turn. That week wasn't mercy. It was containment. A slow, quiet mirror held up to her. She tried guilt. She tried subtle digs. She tried reclaiming her old role. None of it worked. And by the end, something shifted. Not in her. She'll always be Diana. But in me. Because letting her stay wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't surrender. It was closure. When the week ended, I arranged resources for her, housing options, community help, budgeting support, but I did not resume being her wallet. She wasn't happy. She wasn't gracious. She wasn't transformed. But she left, and I didn't feel guilty, not even a little. Some endings aren't dramatic. They're simply done. And mine was long overdue.